Hey, and welcome to Be the Bridge. I'm your host, Brian Peyton Joyner. From the time I was 11, I tried to pray away the gay. But my senior year in college, I realized I could pray and be gay. Each week, I'll share my experiences and chat with others as we build a bridge between the LGBT community and people of faith. Thanks for joining, and let the construction begin.
Hello, fellow bridge builders. Thank you all for joining me today for this special episode of Be the Bridge podcast. My recent podcasts, I've had some bonus episodes where I talk with previous guests, many of whom were your favorite episodes, many were my favorite episodes, and we go a little bit deeper into some topics that weren't discussed the first time. One of the most listened to podcasts was with Pastor Scott McQueen. As you may recall, Scott McQueen was a Southern Baptist preacher when his son came out as gay. One of the things that Scott McQueen mentions in his book, Reasonable Doubt, is how he took his son on a first date very soon after his son came out. Here's a story that is one of my favorites from his book, but I didn't get a chance to go into it the first time around.
So, Scott, the big question that I have is, how did you get from the point where you thought homosexuality was a sin to this scene that you write about in the book where you're driving your son Addison to meet a boy that he's chatted with online?
Brian, you can never believe the trauma, the internal trauma that a Southern Baptist pastor's going through during that particular moment in time.
How long after he'd come out to you did this scene take place?
Here's what happened. Our son informs us after I tell him that I'll be supportive. I wasn't telling him that I was being affirming. In fact, it was only about a month after he came out.
Oh, wow.
And so I was not at a place of saying that I was wrong. I was not at a place of saying that I was affirming. I'm not anywhere close. But what I told him was that I would be supportive. So he comes to me and he puts me to the test. He says, Dad, he says, there's a guy over about 2.5 hours on the other side of the state. And we've been chit-chatting online, and we want to get together in a local mall there in a larger city and just talk. Would you drive me there? And a lot of things raced through my mind. My first thought was to say, oh, absolutely not. But I had just told him that I would be supportive and that I was going to be objective and that I was going to truly investigate. So now it was the time to put up or shut up.
Right.
And I told him, okay, with conditions. Conditions being, Mom and Dad are going to drive you there. We're going to be there for 3 hours. During that time, you stay at the mall, you walk around, and when the 3 hours are up, there's no debate. We'll drive him back to his home, this guy, drop him back off, and then we'll head home. And he agreed to that. So we went. And as we're driving down the road, we're getting closer and closer to picking up this young man. And the 17-year-old son of ours is sitting in the back seat. Jackie and I are sitting quiet in the front seat. And we drive for about 2.5 hours, and not a word is said. It's racing through my mind. I am, and what some people might, I know that all Southern Baptists who hear this would say, oh, he's crazy. Right. And I was thinking to myself, I'm crazy. Wow. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to build trust with my son.
Right.
I wanted him to know that I was objectively studying, that I wanted to show him respect. And to be quite honest, as a dad, I'm sitting here also thinking, what happens if I were to say no? I knew what the statistics were about teenage suicide among the LGBTQIA community. I knew about the runaway statistics. I knew all of these things. And although our son had never demonstrated anything to us that would cause us to necessarily think in those terms, I also wasn't naive enough to believe that wasn't a possibility. So we made a very difficult decision, and we allowed him to go. But now What's funny, Brian, is on the way. We worked up an escape password. I told him that I said, son, what happens if we get here and this guy's not what you think? And he says, well, he's going to. I said, but what if he's not? What if he's not going to be? I said, we need to come up with a password. And if you say this word, it's kind of the escape word. We know we can get out of here, that we're going to come up with some excuse. And if you say it, you won't have to really let him know that you don't like him. And so he speaks up from the back seat, because we're still driving on to this guy's house. He says, Cheez-Its, Dad, Cheez-Its. He says, if I say I would like some Cheez-Its, you'll know I'm ready to go. You'll know, because you know I don't like Cheez-Its, and I would never ask for them. So I was praying all the way there from that point onward. Lord God, please give me some Cheez-Its.
Yeah.
I must admit, I was praying that he would get there, and for some reason he would get cold feet. I was praying maybe he'll get there, and when all of this comes to right full in his frontal, in his face, he'll think to himself, and who knows, maybe it'll jolt him into some reality of maybe he's straight after all. I don't know, but it turns out that the young man was really nice. We didn't hear Cheez-Its, and they walked around the mall for 3 hours. But I can tell you, we had hell to pay when we got back, because the church found out about it.
Well, Scott, you are a much better parent than you are parrot. And I think that's what that story definitely shows.
Well, thank you.
If you'd like to know more about Scott and hear the reaction from his church, check out episode 20 of Be the Bridge podcast. Scott's story is incredible, and his book, Reasonable Doubt, is a must-buy.
Thanks for listening to Be the Bridge. If you enjoyed the show, I'd love a positive rating and review on iTunes. I appreciate your support and feedback. For more details, visit brianpaytonjoyner.com or follow me on Facebook or Twitter. The links are in the show notes. Have a great week. And as my grandpa used to say, if you live life by your own rules, you're gonna be okay.